One of the biggest mysteries in One Piece is who is Imu, and I think with the most recent chapters of One Piece, we're getting closer to understanding it. So I'd like to just discuss and talk about what we know so far. So ever since Imu has been revealed to us in the manga, Imu has been a very mysterious character. It first got introduced as a silhouette and just as someone who had sat down in the empty throne, and before that as well, we saw this figure look at the straw hats, and also before it sat on the empty throne, it had a bunch of pictures in its hands. But Imu has never been an outright character that anyone in the community has understood. And as we have gotten deeper and deeper knowledge on Imu, and we have seen Imu in the panels longer, I think we're getting closer and closer to actually understanding who and what Imu is than we ever have been. So let's start with the origins, right? Imu is not someone from this modern era. That is guaranteed. Based on what has been revealed so far, Imu definitely dates back to the Void Century and even possibly further into the First World now that we got through the Harley back in the Sun Gods era, right? So this comes from chapter 1086 where Ivankov is talking about Imu, and Ivankov goes on to say, among the first 20 who created the world 800 years ago, there was a monarch named Saint Imu of the Nerona dynasty. So boom, right there, just from that alone, we know that Imu's full name is Nerona Imu. And Imu is someone who is definitely from the Void Century 800 years ago. And I think that already tells us the way people have understood how Law's Devil Fruit has that hidden potential of the immortality surgery, which there's a lot of misconception in the community about that, but that's maybe a different video. But basically, Imu has had the immortality or the eternal youth surgery done to them. And that is why they have been able to be the ruler and be this person that has stood out throughout these 800 years. And if this Imu person had existed in the Sun God era, maybe even then. And now we get into the topic of what Imu's connection is to the modern era people outside of the Gorosei, right? And when we first see Imu, outside of seeing it in front of the massive straw hat, which, potentially Joy Boys, potentially itself, who knows, really, right? Or maybe even Emmett's, besides the point. Imu is holding multiple different pictures, and that is of Luffy, Vivi, Shirahoshi, and Blackbeard. And, some of them they're not holding, some of them are just cut up on the floor, yada yada. But either way, none of these is random, right? And with the latest chapters, I think we're getting more and more understanding on why these characters are the people that Imu's focused on, right? Luffy, the reincarnation of Joy Boy, the possessor of the Sun God fruit. Definitely Imu knew about this before Luffy, awakened it, because the government was like, oh, we're hiding the name and stuff like that. But the fact that when Luffy escaped Egghead, Imu said to Saturn, "Why did you let Joy Boy escape?" So that's there's the connection with Luffy, right? Shirahoshi, easy one, right? It's Shirahoshi's Poseidon, that's the ancient weapon. Vivi, we have now gotten recent news and recent understanding that Nefertari D Vivi is the true name, and Nefertari D Lily was part of the original 20 that created the world, but actually decided to leave, and theories around that on if they went to Amazon Lily or not, and formed Amazon Lily. But yeah, we have Vivi right there as well, right? Connection with Imu and Lily. And then last but not least, Blackbeard. And Blackbeard was the weird one. Outside of just the story implication of Blackbeard being the last character for Luffy to fight, the truth now is Blackbeard is Zebek's son, which probably the closest person who has gotten close to Imu within the recent years as a opponent. But not only that, Blackbeard is now a descendant, or now we understand is a descendant of the D clan, or what am I saying? The Davy D clan. And given all this, now Imu has interest in these people, right? And Imu is trying to hide from what happened 800 years ago. It doesn't want it to have relevance, and it doesn't want anyone to know about it. And it's trying to squash anything that is part of it. I also realize how I'm using it, another part of Imu. We don't know the gender, and I thought the anime would confirm this for us, but the anime didn't. It uses a distorted voice that sounds both masculine and feminine. I can't understand if it is a male or a female, and I think, if I'm not mistaken, the first episode that Imu showed up in with a voice actor, when they were showing the voice actors at the credits, it was like blanked out or question marked out or scratched out, hiding the truth, right? So we don't know who the voice actor is, and we don't know the gender of Imu. But a longtime fan and someone who has been part of this community a while, I think the general understanding that Imu is a woman. So I'm still gonna run with that, but I like to prefer to refer to Emu as an it or a they rather than actually putting a gender on it, because we don't know yet. There's no actual confirmation on this. And now I think the biggest part, and the reason why I wanted to make this video, is something that came from chapter 160 or 1165, right? And that is the fact that what we saw of Emu when it got first introduced was this blacked out silhouetted character with just the eyes, right? And now it's been so long and so many times that we've seen Emu, and there's still no reveal of it. And the biggest one that hit was in 1165 when Roger asked Garp a question of, did you know about this black monster that lived within the government or something like that, right? That is very telling. That means that Roger visually saw what Emu was, the Emu Saturn combination, and identified it as that is a black creature that is not a humanoid form, a silhouetted form that we don't get to see as the readers. Nope, that is 100% what the viewers are seeing, is what the characters in One Piece are seeing. And we'll discuss the powers and stuff, but maybe it's a power, maybe it's not. But maybe Emu is just this creature itself, right? This black creature. Maybe Emu's the only one left of this race or of this being that it is. And Emu could be an ancient creature or the devil itself or even an alien. I try to restrain myself from saying anything that, like, enables Emu to be a actual evil source, because even Vegapunk said we don't know the truth behind the history and we can't really label who's the good side and the bad side. And I love that idea behind it. I think at the end of the day, what Oda will show us is that Joy Boy Luffy's end of the things is going to be good, and then the bad side is going to be the Emu side. But I do love the ambiguity of it, right? And Emu's powers are not normal, right? Emu's powers are like, it's not a devil fruit user, but like someone with just abilities. This is not a devil fruit, right? This is something that's weird. It summons weapons from a book. It manifests firearms and blades, grants wings through possession, inflicts wounds that trigger Dami Reversi. And then it has this new thing that we learned about, which is the covenants, right? And there's the shallow covenant, the depths covenant, and the abyssal covenant. Like so many tiers to it that I don't even think this sounds like Nen more than it sounds like a One Piece devil fruit. So yeah, I mean, I think in conclusion, I think that one, we've already gotten the reveal of Emu's face this whole time ever since Emu was first revealed. Two, we have a better understanding on why Emu has focused on these people, especially in the Blackbeard choice. Three, I think Emu's powers derive from an actual power rather than a devil fruit. And four, Emu is a creature that comes from the Void Century and probably has the immortality surgery done by the Op fruit. And I'd love to hear you guys' thoughts on this. Do you guys think that Emu was originally a person who maybe got these monstrous abilities that turned it to what it is today? Or do you think Emu was always like this, kind of like a Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood situation with the homunculus, right? And do you think that, Vegapunk was right in not labeling these people as evil and good and making us decide for ourselves when we learned the truth? And yeah, please like, comment, subscribe, share, and thank you for watching.